All right, good morning, everyone. This is Justice with Jax, and we are on Season 2, Episode 4. I am really excited to have my guest today. I'm going to let Naomi introduce herself in a second, but as we know, this show is an educational vehicle for updates about the case that I am a litigant in, represented by the American Civil Liberties Union of Colorado. So today is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. That is 1 year, 2 months, 15 days since Armendariz versus the City of Colorado Springs has been filed, and that's 442 days. And because we have a candidate on the show, there are 21 days until Election Day 2024.
Indeed.
So I'll just give a quick case update as we usually do.
Okay.
Based on the last episode, not a lot has changed. What is happening is we are waiting for the other sides, the defendants, that's the City of Colorado Springs, the FBI, or the U.S. government's response to our initial filing in the U.S. District Court 10th Circuit. So we're in appeals right now, and in appeals, as just a reminder, these courts are really looking at the process of the claims that are being made. And so that is different than the original jurisdiction of the district court. So, as usual, this is the hard part. It's the waiting game of process, right? But we know that with government, process and time is a part of it. And so I will let Naomi take it away. So will you please just share your affiliations, your pronouns, anything you want the community to know?
Yes, thank you, Jax. First, I want to say it's a beautiful morning in Colorado Springs to be here with you, Jax, on your show. I appreciate the invite, of course. So my name is Naomi López, and I am running for Paso County Commissioner District 3. I am a Democrat. This is a really historic time for El Paso County, as we did redistricting 2 summers ago.
Actually, yeah.
2 summers ago.
Time flies, and
Yep.
Naomi and I showed up to those meetings like it was our job.
It was, yeah. And it was really important because we haven't had fair district lines in many years. So because
the map matters
yes,
a lot.
And because of that, we haven't had a Democrat electable within El Paso County for over 53 years.
Yeah.
So before I was born was the last time there was a Democrat gentleman who was elected to a county commissioner. Yeah, so when we don't have a governing body that is diverse in thought and opinion and viewpoint and experience, then we're not going to have a very equitable and robust society, right? The more diverse that any system is, the ecosystem, biology,
Science.
it's
science is not their friend sometimes, it seems like, but
well, you
yeah.
know, and it's been interesting because in my journey, well, I guess we can get into that a little bit, but
yeah, there's some
later.
questions I have. Yeah.
But so that's what I'm doing. I'm running for county commissioner. I am a speech language pathologist. I currently work in Colorado Springs School District 11. I serve 2 schools on the west side of Colorado Springs.
That's your district.
That's my district. I've lived there in my district for the whole time I lived here in Colorado, which
Wow.
is
Yeah.
21 years.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah. Oh, my pronouns are she, her, ella.
Perfect. And we're being kind of low-key, but actually Naomi is so important for me to have her on the show because she's one of my best friends in this entire town, and I'm so proud of her. And she really was one of the people who was very important to as like medicine for me during this really tough time in my life, because we actually met after I was arrested, right? And you were probably one of the people that was there, one of the first people to know, like, holy shit, the ACLU is willing to represent this case. And I remember those moments so profoundly. They're so personal. And so I don't know if you want to add anything about our particular bond, because you have meant a lot to me. And
thank you.
Why you're on this show as well.
Well, you know, Jax, I want to say that in you and I, in our friendship, have realized that there's all of us have our own medicine, right? Mm-hmm. What we bring to the world, and what you have done to stand in this gap, this very important gap of having the people represented against some of the atrocities that our policing does to the community at times, is a very brave and needed place and not everyone can do that. And I know that you didn't set out to do that, right?
It picked me, is what it feels
yeah.
like.
And I think in that way, you and I have a lot in common, because me running for a public office, I did not set out to do that either.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that
You were asked, you were called. I know the community saw you as the person who could be there for us.
Well, I think you and I had some conversations about it, but, people have asked me that as I'm running for office. They're like, well, who asked you to do this? No one literally, we had conversations about it, because we know how important it is for us to have representation for our community in the places of power, right? But it really was just a calling and a lack of representation that I saw in our government in general, and especially at the county level, that inspired me to step forward and just say, if I'm going to sit here and complain about it, I might as well do something about it, right?
100%.
And as a Latina, with the power that we have within, our ancestry, in our community, in how we walk upon the earth with intention, I knew I had everything within me capable, and the support of the community to go ahead and move forward for this candidacy.
Absolutely. Intention is a huge piece of it, and I am just so proud. I don't think we can emphasize enough that the candidate in front of you right now is going to make history, because she will be the first woman of color ever on the El Paso County Commission. That is insane to me. It's 2024, and so thank God you're running.
Yes, so
that's the medicine we need.
We have had women. We have
a majority.
We have a majority women, and this election cycle, if Dr. Duncan in District 4, is it 4?
Yes, District 4. Detra Duncan as well.
If she gets elected, it'll be an all woman board.
However, I never thought of it that way. That is amazing.
Commissioner Bremer is stepping down in January.
Right.
So that means that since she's a Republican, the Republican El Paso County Republican Party will appoint someone. So we don't know if that would be a man or a woman. That person will serve for 2 years until our next election cycle, which will be District
5 will be
District
up,
5,
as well
which
as,
is Commissioner Bremer's district.
Right, and one other district as well, because they're on staggered terms. And that's a beautiful point. Thank you, Naomi, for mentioning that we have Detra Duncan, who could help us make even more history, having an all-woman.
Who's also a woman of color.
First woman of color elected, a black woman, a Latina. Hell yeah, I'm just saying, this couldn't be a more exciting time for these races. And
yes.
So I'm really grateful that you came so we can help people pay attention to that fact. It's a huge, huge deal.
And Jax, I do want to say that I think you're going to ask me this question next.
Okay.
But you are actually the catalyst and the person who told me, I mention you without your name a lot when I'm out there campaigning. People ask me, what made you want to run for county commissioner? And what I say is that I had been doing public advocacy work for our children in public schools for.
You're a teachers union gal.
I am also a teachers union gal. Yeah, there's a lot. I didn't say all my affiliations, did I?
You have so many. It'd be the whole episode probably.
So let me just quickly go over that. About 5 years ago, our district had an equity leadership team, because we had an equity department before our current school board dismantled that department.
Which was completely political.
Yes.
Let's say it.
And harms our children. So a group of us that were involved in that leadership committee, we got together and started a group called Neighbors for Education. And so it's parents, teachers, community members who were advocating for equity for our public school children, specifically for our LGBTQIA plus children and our children of color. So I was doing that, of course, advocating throughout all the different school districts. I became the president of that organization. And then I found you when I was trying to reach out to find more Latino community. Yeah, and then you and I became friends, and I became, both of us became founding members of the Latina Equity Foundation.
Great.
And so in both of those organizations, I was doing advocacy work. Mm-hmm. Then you told me, you were like, girl,
look at these fools.
Look at the county commissioners. No one's paying attention to them. Nobody goes to their meetings. Mm-hmm. The things that they're saying are racist.
They're bigoted.
They're hateful, and nobody's checking them. And so that was way before, like 2 years ago, before we got involved with the redistricting. So I was aware of that. You would send me little videos, you got to watch this. So it was because of you that I started to really be involved in watching that.
Thank you.
So I tell people that story. I just don't say who it was.
I appreciate you.
But
That
it was
feels like I'm doing
Jax
my job.
Armendariz Unzueta.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. And to your point, I mean, recently we've seen changes on the county commission. Cami Bremer has announced her resignation, so the Republicans could strategically appoint someone else who will then run, and they have a 2-year head start for the 2026 cycle. And then they just shifted the president of the county commission, right?
The chair.
It used to be the chair. It used to be Cami, and now it's Carrie Geithner, who is dangerous for our community. She is in the pocket of developers. She is repeating MAGA misinformation. She's a dangerous white woman for our community, and those are my words. Let me make very clear, disclaimer, not a lawyer, speaking for myself, as I always do on this show. And so I really, again, just the utmost respect for my dear friend who is stepping up for what I think is one of the bravest things you can do into that type of environment, knowing that your coworkers may have different views, points of view. And so can I ask you, I feel like a county commissioner is frankly one of many elected offices that voters just may not know much about, frankly. And so how do you like to explain the job to people? And why do you think it seems that there's less focus maybe on this type of really important position of power?
I think it's not sexy.
What about government is sexy? I don't know about
Well,
that.
I mean,
I feel you, yeah.
Well, just
But
kidding.
these two ladies sitting right here, that's
So county commissioners are essentially the administrative body of the government, from federal and state government to the people of the county. So really, county commissioners hold a lot of power because they decide what money is going to flow
power
in.
of the purse.
Power of the purse, what money is going to flow in to the county and for what resources. Right now, currently, the county is going through its initial stages of the budget hearings.
Right. And it's cyclical, right? Because the fall is always when you want to you're going to want to pay attention as a registered voter to what they're doing with your money, your taxes.
Right. And I would say in general, the more that I have been involved in understanding the issues and talking with department heads of the county and the city.
Because she be doing her homework.
I do my work, yes, because why wouldn't I? But the county has last year it was over $483 million of the budget. And the county has received national awards over and over again by the way that they manage
the
the
fiscal
budget.
management, right? Yeah.
And in general, the county workers, from what I've heard, are pretty happy and taken care of. So county workers can unionize, but what I'm seeing is that there's not really a feel like they need to. But of course, once I'm a commissioner, I'll find out. I did have a visit at the jail. That was
The
interesting.
CJC?
I was there for a couple hours with one of the lieutenants, and
Okay.
I was speaking with the people that work there, and one of the nurses, they switched their medical.
That's right. It was actually quite a big deal because there were definitely community members who, that particular contract, there had been multiple incarcerated people who had died under the care of this provider, and the community voiced the demand that the provider needed to change, the contract needed to change. So they were telling you about that?
Well, I knew that had happened. So I was talking with one of the nurses that was on staff there about the difference between the two companies. And, I work in the medical field as well. I do work in the schools, but as a speech pathologist, I have worked in hospitals, skilled nursing units, home health.
Right.
So we interchange between the two fields. And so I know that as in any organization, there are administrative things that kind of get in the way of the work, right?
Sure.
So I got that sense from her that the new organization or the new company that they hired was better on some fronts, but there are still things that need to be done and changed. But I felt like she really couldn't talk to me freely about that.
I can imagine.
So, in general, I would like to say this, that when we're sitting outside and we're looking in, and we can talk about what's impacting us, which is important, but also we haven't had somebody on the inside saying these are the pieces and how they move and how they work. So my intention is to be elected to serve as your commissioner so that I can look at where are we allocating the monies to which areas, and where can we find creative ways, new ways to find the resources we need to funnel into programs that are going to reduce recidivism, reduce the amount of people in and out of that jail, reduce our poverty rate, reduce our homelessness rate. Like, those are
Root causes of crime.
root causes, right? Because you can't just talk about we're going to punish people for being in difficult situations, because then all we're doing literally is we are putting money into a system that's profiting off of people being incarcerated, and you're not helping the community. And then the money that you're going to spend on the back end of fixing problems, because you never spent money on the front end of making sure the problems don't exist in the first place. I mean, that's just ludicrous to me. So that being said, that's going to take a long time. It's not something that I myself am going to go in there and solve.
It's not a switch that you flip over.
No.
Certainly not. And I think what you're naming, if I may, is that in El Paso County, with this position of power, this board of county commissioners, there just hasn't even been someone who is willing to voice that, to understand that perspective. Because what really bothers me, I think, about what we're saying here is how badly it gets politicized. Because I think this type of discourse is often labeled as liberal or whatnot. Actually, we're just looking at the facts. We're just looking at the data. And so that's, I think, an important distinction to make, that actually what is being said is not political in any way. It is more, the intention is more about serving our community.
Exactly.
And really getting to the root of things.
Right.
You know?
And I think the beauty about my candidacy is that, yes, I'm a Democrat. I've always been a Democrat. I'm a Latina and an Indigenous woman, so I believe in serving community. Community first leadership is my leadership style.
Right.
So that's what I'm going to do in any leadership position that I'm in, right? Whether it's teaching your children, or it's serving as your county commissioner, or it's walking down the street and seeing somebody in need and helping. So that's how I live my life. And I'm a pragmatic person. I'm an intelligent person. I understand that even though, let's say, for example, Commissioner Geithner and I are probably very far apart on our ideological things.
There.
You know, that is okay. If we're supposed to, if we have to work together, there has to be some kind of coming together. Now, I can't control whether or not she'll be willing to do that, but I know what I'm going to be willing to do. And I'm going to be willing to see her in her humanity, see where we can come together, and hopefully she'll see that it's better to work together, right?
I hope so.
Because if not, like, I can't go in there expecting to fight and get anything done, because it's not going to happen. Now, I will speak up when things need to be said. But in order to get on the long run,
do we want actual productive governing?
Yes.
Right.
And that's what I intend to do. And I will also say that I have had conversations with other commissioners where we have talked about the potentiality of working together, and that we are, even though we're on different sides of the aisle, like, we're ready to work together, and we have that mutual respect. This is before.
That makes me so happy to hear that. Like, here for the people, what a concept.
Yes.
So instead of, you know me, and so I'm gonna stay on track here mostly, but it really, really disturbs me that my assessment of the county commission so far, and frankly the city council, is there's just a lot of political show, a lot of political grandstanding.
Yes.
And in the meantime, why don't you care about your constituents? And so it's really heartening. I'm glad to hear that some of your future colleagues on the commission are willing to work together, because leadership, you have to expect conflict. You have to be competent at handling conflict.
Exactly.
We deserve a government that is functional. And so while I'm glad to hear the employees are solid at the county government level, I think there's a lot left to be desired when it comes to the Board of County Commissioners. And so
it's also that public facing thing that you see, right? And really, as a society, as humans, we're moved by emotion.
Right. It's part of politics is an art, right? Because you're governing, but you're trying to move hearts and minds.
And you have to do work and get things done.
Yeah, ideally. Right. Not all of them are doing that.
Well, that's what I intend to do, because otherwise, what the heck? Like, trust me, running for office is not easy. I'm a single mom. I work full time. I'm exhausted. Like you said, how many days? 21 days?
Yeah.
It feels like 5 days. Like, every day just goes by so fast, and I'm working so hard just to get to that finish line. I don't know why anyone would do this unless they really want to make a difference in the lives of the people they want to serve, because it's a pain in the butt.
I would say, I don't know, like, people like us, I would say, that resonates, but I think, unfortunately, there are other types that run from a place of egocentricity. The salary ain't too shabby. Certainly you're getting recognition in your community, and so thank you. I appreciate you for running from a place of intention that is really honorable. I don't think every politician or elected has that. And can I ask you, we talked a little bit about the budget. Do you want to talk a little bit from campaign perspective, if there are any priorities there that are on your mind, or any of your other campaign priorities, to kind of give people an idea of the studying that you've been doing as you run for county commission?
I think overall, my number one important goal is to be a representative of the people, right? And that doesn't just mean my people.
It means all of District 3.
It means all of District 3, which is diverse. But with a specific focus on coming to the decision-making table, speaking for the people who are unhoused, who I spend time talking with, and I ask them, what is it that you need? What is it that you're struggling with?
The West Side primarily is the part of town that is being confronted with the issue of people being unhoused, because we are in a housing crisis. That was episode 1 of this season.
Yes. So that is essentially I think the biggest issue that we're facing here in El Paso County, and frankly throughout the nation.
Right.
And also, when I speak to people, I'm not going to be the one, or the county commissioners as a whole going to be the ones to solve that issue. Housing as a crisis is something that needs to have systematic changes from the top down.
There's many layers to it.
But if we, as the decision makers for the county, just decide to take our hands out and watch it just happen, then we're not contributing to the solution, right? So, so my number one thing is to actually find solutions. So I'm just going to give you a quick synopsis of last Tuesday.
Do it.
I was invited, anyone can go attend the budget hearings, but I was invited, all candidates were invited, because we will be voting on the budget in January.
Please know your job.
And so only myself and Dr. Duncan were there.
Your opponents did not attend to accept the invitation.
No. However, so we're there, and we're talking budget stuff, right? And then out of nowhere, Commissioner Vanderwerf, whose seat I will be taking because he is termed out and running for another seat, he started to complain about the state and how the majority Democratic controlled
We have a
legislature
trifecta of blue, which they hate.
Legislature is passing these ordinances and these laws to counties, but unfunded mandates. And so, it's real. I mean, to me, I'm a yes girl, not a no girl, right? Like,
yes, and how can we do this?
Yeah, I mean, it's why would you for years complain about the fact that you're not getting the money to do what you're mandated to do, and instead use that energy to go out there and find the money and figure out how to do the money to serve the people? And you know what he was complaining about?
Tell me.
The ADA.
Oh man, accessibility. So
yes.
He doesn't. What can you crystallize a little bit further his complaints about Americans with disabilities having
the fact that the state made a law that by I think it's 2025 or 20, I think it might be 2025, it might be 2026, that all the county website and the papers and the forms need to be accessible to people with disabilities. So
which is a
fix
spectrum
it.
in itself. But I mean, ideally, just your values.
Exactly.
You want everyone to have access to their
Exactly.
democracy. Like it's
So what I hear when I hear that complaint is, well, you don't deserve our time or attention, and you're just a pain in my rear.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I hear. And as a speech pathologist who works with children who deserve the right to have language access, to communicate, to understand, I mean, it's their right as human beings. Our residents who have disabilities, our residents who are experiencing homelessness, our residents who can't afford to pay the bills, you know, our residents who, just last night, I was at Sertage, my daughter plays hockey, and it was 10:30 at night. This gentleman, this black man, came walking up to me and my ex-husband were standing outside, and he's like, "Excuse me, brother and sister." He's like, "Can you help me out? I just left Memorial Hospital. I have the flu. I can't get home to Whitefield. Can you guys have money that I can have to get an Uber home to Whitefield?" So I gave him the $20 that was in my wallet.
That's awesome.
You know, because that's an issue too. There is a healthcare desert, a hospital desert south of the Memorial Hospital.
Right,
on
all
both
folks in Fountain, our southeast side of town, the access isn't there.
Exactly.
I drive all the way to past Briargate to access my OBGYN care.
And that is not my
I have
district.
the privilege of doing that.
Right, you do. And that is not my district, but that is my neighbor. And as a county commissioner, I'll also be making decisions about every district. And that is where
Right,
my
it's
heart
not
is.
like
And
you're
that's what I'm running to do, right? My opponent is against building of apartments in the community, mostly in the community where we live up north. Well, it must be nice to be your only
So narrow-minded again.
well, I think it's a privilege to be your main concern.
Yeah.
Because
you ain't thinking about any other worries, right? Like, you know, paying your rent or transportation, like the gentleman that you met. There's so much that people struggle
so
with.
I'm just getting a little bit emotional, but it really upsets me, and that's why I decided to run. You know, advocating for the least of us when nobody wants to listen to us over and over again, and we're there advocating for our community, and it's up to them whether or not they're going to decide to listen to us, which the majority of the time, it's probably like 10% of the time, they'll listen to minority populations. And so I said, well, how about I be the decision maker? And even if I'm just one voice on that commission.
It matters.
Yes, it matters, and I will say we need to focus on this thing. And if I'm sitting up there at the dais and one of the commissioners says something like Commissioner Vanderwerf says, you know, then I will speak up and say, excuse me, those people who cannot access our website because of their disability deserve 100% of our attention, just like any other resident. And I'll say that at the dais.
Well said. They gots to be checked. That's what I'm excited about. And I just wanted to note too is like when we talk about these issues that are so complex, you know, naming that we're not going to flip a light switch and solve them. And we've talked about that on this show, that it just kind of is a little bit painful, the process to wait, right? But that is what it takes. And when you talk about people with disabilities, the intersection of that actually makes them more vulnerable to becoming unhoused.
Yes.
How it just snowballs on everyone, or it can. And frankly, we live in a society right now where, you know, most of us, we are 1 paycheck, 2 paychecks away from being just like our neighbor without housing.
That includes me.
That it definitely includes me.
I mean, let's just be real, okay?
That's all we do on this show.
So I'm a professional with a master's degree. I work in the public school, so I receive a teacher's salary based on how many years I've worked in education, not based on my degree in this state. So, you know, I make more than a beginning teacher, but I rent an apartment. And I cannot afford to move because, you know, rent raises every time.
I can't afford to move either. I own my condo.
Right. There's all kinds of issues, right?
Yeah.
So by the 12th of the month, I run out of money every month because I don't get paid enough. So thank goodness I have a family. My mother and father actually give me money every month just so I can buy food and put gas in my car for me and my child. And I'm a 47-year-old woman, right? Who's a professional. That is an atrocity.
The economic inequity that we face.
And so if I did not have parents, I would not be running for county commissioner because I wouldn't be able to, because I would be probably homeless, living with you.
Yeah, you can live with me.
You know what I mean? So it would be bad.
We're keeping it very real. Yeah.
And also, I definitely don't meet the thresholds to get any kind of assistance, governmental assistance. So there's so to come back, circle around to your original question. There are, when you do these network interviews, they ask, what are your top 3 priorities?
Yeah.
I cannot single-handedly pull one out and say this is a priority because they all are
the intersectionality of it.
Yes, the intersectionality of them, they all impact each other. And if we were to just pick this one and not this one and address it, then we're not being wise about the way that we address societal issues. And so, unlike state reps or state senators who are actually writing the laws to hopefully change the way things happen, we as county commissioners, we take those laws and we say, okay, how can we best serve our community based on the money that we have, the revenue that we have coming in, and services that we're providing, right?
Well said. And I want to point out too, I think something that you touched on earlier, which I think is really profound and needs to be given more air to breathe, is that I have been so upset. I think I've named this on the show, as well as that for me, what I see at the city, county level is a lot of washing of the hands when it comes to the housing crisis issue. Just a lot of kicking the can elsewhere and saying, well, we're a city. That's not really our jurisdiction. And same thing largely, I think, with county, which is, to me, a whole lot of BS because, like you said, there are ways to be part of the solution. And both those governing bodies have zoning power, which is a piece of what could be done with the addressing the housing crisis. And so I just want to name that, you are listening to a candidate who is not washing their hands of the problems, especially the number one problem that many of us believe in this country we are facing, which is a housing crisis. So
it's access. It's access to upward mobility. I think that is the number one issue that I'm concerned in ensuring that more of our residents have. I mean, it is essentially the legacy of the work I've been doing, first as a public servant in teaching our children, to the nonprofit work that I've been doing, is ensuring that those of us who are struggling to even get access to upward mobility, that there are more means to do that. And there are many nonprofits that are partnering with both the city and the county that are doing good work for that, but there needs to be more work done, right? And when people are afraid to face the reality of things that are uncomfortable for them, like people who are unhoused, or people who are in addiction, or people who are suffering from mental health issues, like those things don't scare me. I have an affinity to work with people who are not experiencing their best, and I know the tools by which to get people from point A to point B. So I intend to do that within the systems that I find as a county commissioner.
But again, because it's like when you are an elected official, what are you signing up for? It's to be a problem solver. It is to actually, I don't know if I said this on the show yet. This is kind of my opinion, but what is leadership, elected leadership? You are a person who is willing to see, smell, and even step in the shit. And sure, it comes along with other wonderful things, I think.
Right, and then you step in the shit, and then you're like, oh, I don't want to step in the shit, and I don't want anyone else to step in the shit. So let me get it off the damn sidewalk. Like, that's what I should do as an elected official. Get the shit off the sidewalk. I'm not saying people are shit. I'm saying that whatever the problem is that we don't want to look at, well, let's fix the problem. Yeah. And again, I intend to win. Absolutely. Serve for 4 years, run and serve for another 4 years. So that will give me 8 years. Mm-hmm. That is my goal. By the time I'm done with my 8th year, that I will have been the solution maker, working with not only my other county commissioners, but city officials. Granted, we also have other cities. We have the town of Monument.
That's right.
And their council.
Right.
Manitou Springs.
Is a big one.
Fountain. Mm-hmm. So working with all those governments and the state and federal offices to ensure that our county is better off for all of us 8 years from now than it was today.
Beautifully said, because commissioners are term limited, right? And so don't be writing her next year and say, what have you done, Naomi? Give her some time, okay?
And if you write me and say, what have you done, Naomi, then we're going to have a conversation and we'll see what it is that you worried about.
Always.
Because I'm not afraid to do that.
That's another piece that has always bothered me with the county commission is I've written my county commissioner several times and never received a reply. And I'm saying multiple county commissioners. I've lived in different districts. I currently live in 5. I've also lived in 1, which is now actually part of 3 because the maps are different. And so I appreciate you naming that's another piece of being an elected official. You are accountable to the public. You should be communicating with the public. And so I think you've done a really good job about talking about your lived experience and how that relates to, I think, you being one of the best county commissioners we're ever going to have. But is there more you want to say about your background to let people know?
Yeah, so, I think that you mentioned the union. Yeah. One thing I learned, so I hadn't always been a union member. I'm a member.
You come from a family of teachers, right?
Yes. So my whole family, they're either teachers or attorneys. But
I know that.
Yeah, we're Hispanic, so we got big families. So, some of my cousins, or barbers. Attorneys, or teachers. But the majority of us have been educators since.
Goes back many generations,
But I'm from New Mexico, and my parents were never members of a union. I don't know if there wasn't really a culture of the need for it, I guess, in my family. So as I became an educator here, I still wasn't a member of the union for a while until I started to doing my advocacy work. And I said, there's something to this solidarity piece, right?
People power, baby.
People power.
The collective.
So I decided to go ahead and join my union, and now I am actually a board director for the Teachers Union, Colorado Springs Education Association. And I realized that it's the people. So people think when union bashers.
Don't even we've talked about it.
They think that union is this boss structure that disseminates instructions to the people that are the members. That's not how it works. Union members is us saying this is what we vote to do. Right. And we push it forward. That's what the union is. So it's we the people. If you want to know how to solve an issue, you actually listen to the people who it's impacting.
Amen.
That's the number one premise
simple logic
that I learned from being a member of a union. So that being said, as a community, as I'm getting prepared to become a commissioner, I have gone to the people experiencing the issues and asked them, what is it that you're experiencing? What is it that you need? Because I think I'm smart. I think I can come up with good ideas, but my idea is never going to be as good as what the person who's actually experienced the issue is saying that they need, right? In conjunction with the experts in whatever field, right? So as a professional, as a speech pathologist, my current job is to remediate people who have a deficit. So language learning, communication, swallowing, voice, cognition, all those things are in our purview. So when I'm working with a patient or a student, I have my specific skill set that even the doctor cannot do. But I can't do what the doctor does. I cannot do what the neurologist does.
We have a care team.
There's a team. And so that person is going to get from point A to point B, which is an elevated point for them, by the team coming together around their need.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
So that is the framework by which I feel government should do. When you're a decision maker, you go to the people it's impacting, you go to the experts that have the tools. What is it that you have available? How can we work together to help this community get from point A to point B? It can be done. It has been done over and over again. And when I'm a commissioner, it will be done.
Beautiful, beautiful. I appreciate that a great deal. And speaking of unions, and we'll do a fact check. I'll definitely post a link with the episode. But I think what I understand, and again, correct me. So we had legislation at the state level that essentially allowed employees to unionize. However, I understood that there was one layer of that where county commissions actually lobbied to make themselves an exception at the county level. So I'm going to fact check that.
And I think, let's fact check it, and we'll put the link. But I do think that it was passed that county workers can also unionize, because I was asked about it.
Good.
I was asked about it, actually.
I'm sure you were.
In my interview with the Housing and Building Association, which I thought was interesting that they asked me that question.
Yeah.
But yes, they asked me, what do you think about the right for county workers to be able to unionize? Do you think that's a good or bad thing? I said, I think it's a great thing. And they looked at me like...
Not too surprised.
And then I just
typically conservatively aligned.
And then I just told them why. It's because the same thing I just told you about. It's the people who are making the decisions about what is best for them, and that we all have a right to work in places that are safe, and that we're treated equitably. And to caveat on that, from what I have examined so far and heard from actual county workers, that they are happy. Actually, in the new budget that is being proposed, there is an increase of 4% for all county workers.
Wow, that's great.
Cost of living increase. That was in the budget. So
good to know. And what I also appreciate about kind of what you just framed is that it always really worries me when I hear elected officials being like, we got to run the government like a business. I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes. A business just focuses on the numbers and profit margins and revenue, etc. Government is not a business. And that's where, your framing of it is this collective. I mean, that's what democracy is. E pluribus unum, right? Out of many, one. And so thank you for framing it that way.
And let me tell you something really awesome that I love. So as I'm meeting with county department directors, the majority of them are women.
That is good to know.
And I will say the chief executive officer for the county is a woman. And she's brilliant. She and her department have been able to increase monies to certain departments while having a pretty big surplus of revenue in case of emergencies. So being pretty conservative with the budget, but yet still finding areas, and that's because of the county department. So that's another thing I want people to understand. The county has a whole finance department that does the budget, and then each department comes to the county commissioners. There's meetings that happen way before the hearings, so they know they're in constant communication with the commissioners because they want the budget to be approved. We approve it or not approve it.
Right. You take their recommendations or not, essentially, right?
But from what I have observed so far, you can interview me next year when I'm a commissioner already.
Yeah, absolutely.
But from what I've observed so far, our county budget and the department and the director has done a phenomenal job of really making sure that we, I would say it's probably conservative, but I wouldn't say super conservative.
And let's be clear, when we say conservative, it bothers
financially
so much. Yeah, that somehow And it's not even true. Somehow there's this false premise that Republicans are like better with money matters.
Exactly.
No, they're not.
Exactly.
And so, like, Democrats can talk about being fiscally conservative as well.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right. And it's not even, so here's the deal, right? Like, I'm conservative with a lot of things. I'm going to have this 2 cups of coffee. I'm not going to drink coffee all day because I'm conservative with my
That's
caffeine
right.
intake.
Moderation is key.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I am conservative by when I actually decide to speak out against an issue. I am strategic about it. I'm not going to spend my energy fighting with everybody on the internet. If you want.
Guilty. She's calling out me.
No, I'm not. But that's just me. Like, because I'm conservative with my energy.
It makes
so,
sense.
like, on your point, Democrats, we gotta be very careful by the way that how much weight we put on words, right?
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
whatever. If you're not a Democrat, I'm the commissioner for you. If you're a Republican, I'm the commissioner for you. Because why? Because I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to find solutions. That's why.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Well, I think a good segue here is kind of what we try to have a balance here. Like, we talk about serious things. We talk about this big civil rights case that, is really in the interest of protecting people's privacy and freedom of speech here in Colorado Springs. So, not exactly kid stuff, but the balance we try to strike is what's good in your life. Tell people calls to action for the campaign, anything you want to share, because we want to have that medicine too.
Oh, there's a lot good in my life. And I think I shared this with you maybe a couple of weeks ago. This week, I have found myself kind of hitting an energetic depletion just because it's nonstop, a lot to do. Despite all that, I'm the happiest that I've ever been. And that's because I know I'm doing my purpose, right? When you're aligned, when your soul is aligned on your purpose, and you just happen to find it, it's not something that you manipulated into existence.
Right.
I mean, that's when you know you're in the right place because your soul is at peace, you're inspired.
Things are falling into place all the time.
Yes. And so that's been great. The amount of support that I've been receiving on the campaign trail from Democrats and Republicans alike has been great. My daughter is great. Even though she's a teenager.
I was going to say, how old is she again?
She's 13.
13.
But it made the first ever Tigers girls hockey AA team.
That's great.
That they've ever had. They've always had boys team, but this is the first hockey mom. So that's always also taking my time, but she's doing so good. And just to watch her out there blossoming.
Thriving.
This is only her second year playing hockey. And she's out there, with
She's a beast.
5 and 6 year playing girls, that have been playing that long. So that's also a joy, and it's exciting to feel November 5th coming closer.
Thank God. I mean, let's just take a little beat. I've been trying to talk to people and reassure them, and I've been saying, you know what? Yes, it's gonna get a little bit weird, a little bit tougher, right until we lead to Election Day. But I really truly believe that once Election Day hits and we see those results, it will be better and different. I am optimistic, not only, yes, from the top of the ticket all the way to our county commission. And I've been telling people, prepare yourselves. Will there be some whining? Will there be some manipulations from those who say it was a stolen election? Like, they keep doing that. Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of that, but the good news is that we keep working this hard. We keep making this history. That stuff will fall by the wayside. And
so that being said, there are some needs that I have. My district is a big district. It extends all the way from past Fort Carson, all the way up to Monument, all of downtown, everything west of I-25 up to Woodland Park, so Manitou Springs.
Diverse with people, diverse with geography.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So in order to win, I have to have over 43,000 votes. That being said, I need to reach those voters, and there's no way that I can do it by door knocking alone. So I need money to continue with my digital plan. And so literally, we came up with a plan last night. If we had 10 people a week donate $35, it could get me to my goal.
Excellent.
So that's not a lot.
I think I can get 10 views on this.
Yeah, $35. So you can go to my website, votenaomilopez.com, learn a little bit more about me, and I have more detail there about my
And you can send
my
questions
issues.
too. Right?
Yes,
Yeah,
email me.
nice.
I will respond to you, and I look forward to being your next county commissioner and your first Latina county commissioner ever.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, that's the perfect note to end on. So a reminder here that episodes of Justice with Jax are recorded as a member of the Studio 809 Podcast Collective at the Next Us Community Co-working Space in downtown Colorado Springs. And as always, I ask you to remember these 2 questions and ask them to yourself, which is, who's telling your story? And how are you being the change that you want to see in the world today? So this is Justice with Jax, signing off.